Hello, welcome pen friends. Welcome to the progress report for March. I am using a different setup, so there could be some disturbances. I'm not sure how this is going to work, but I'm going to give it my best, and then when we go face to face, I'll show you. I'm working with a new kind of a little camera stand, so it's all new to me, like shadows, lighting, the whole 9 yards is going to probably have to change, but little by little we'll probably get used to it, I hope. So what I have is my original 8 pens, and I've also inked up 3 more, at least I think that's how it went. Yeah, so I've got more inked up than usual, but things are going quite well, and it's a really exciting month in pens, so I wanted to share with you how it's going. I'm just going to sort of talk through each one quickly, hopefully, and then show you on Leuchtturm and also on Hamelin Optik, which is a lot like Clairefontaine, how things look, and then we'll hop into the Tomoe River 68 GSM paper. But it occurred to me that so many of us want to know how things are going, how they might work in the Leuchtturm. That's important to me too, so I'm surprised I hadn't thought of it before. But anyway, the Platinum 3776 Nice with the broad nib is just a dream pen. I just refilled it this morning. We're about midway through the month, almost, not quite, but close enough. And I just absolutely love it. It writes like butter. It's a beautiful pen to look at, and it's lightweight too. I mean, it feels really comfortable. Just very balanced and comfortable, but smooth as butter. So that has just been wonderful. And then next up is the TWSBI Smoke Rose Gold with a medium nib, and I love it. I may have chosen a little bit of a hardy gray ink for it. I have the Birmingham Slag Gray in it, the new formula, but we'll look at that when we look at the back of the pages. It's very smooth. This is a gorgeous pen. I'm going to love it forever, I'm sure. It's just really, really pretty. I kind of wish this was solid black, but sometimes it almost looks like it is. And I don't know why I say that, except that I think it would just be that much, if this part and this part were solid black, it would just be that much more elegant, but I love it anyway. Okay, then next up is the Pen BBS 352 Galaxy with the 1.1 Anderson nib and Parker Quink Blue Black, and it is just smooth and beautiful. I really enjoy this for letter writing. Okay, then next up is the Faber-Castell Loom in the extra fine. And I've got Colorverse Laurel in here. And normally this is, the extra fine nib is just too extra fine for me. But I don't really feel that way with this nice dark ink. I've found that it shows up, and it's a nice wet writer. It's got more feedback than I'm used to, but it's a good feedback. It's not scratchy. So, I mean, I'm still loving that combination. Actually, what it's done to me, it's kind of put a thought in my head that I'd really like to get one of these looms with a broad nib. But this was, I mean, my pen friend shared this pen with me so that I could find out whether I liked writing with the loom at all, and I do. So it's interesting as I go along. I'm kind of, that's cropping up as an idea more. Okay, so then the Parker Vector with the medium nib. See, I can't remember which came in the door, and I did it last minute, but it doesn't matter. You guys know from the other video. This has the medium nib, and I've just got that little cartridge. Let's peek in and see how it's going. Okay, I've used about half of the ink. I really like it. Now, I'm not using this for letter writing. I'm using it in my journal to kind of highlight and go around things. I kind of wish I'd used a different color, so I would be using this for letter writing. So that tells me as soon as I've emptied it, I would like to try a different ink, maybe a blue. Okay, then next up is the Wingsung 3008, one of my favorite pens. It's a really wet writer, and I probably chose too wet of an ink for this one too, because this is the Levenger Amethyst, and in this nib and feed, holy moly, it's going through a lot of paper, and we'll see that. I'm going to show you. So I'm trying not to do all the talking ahead of time here. Okay, then next up, the Lami, that's out of order. Way out of order. No. Okay, I got confused. I was looking at the wrong. This is obviously the Lamy Vista, and it has the Sailor Mano, the beautiful green. Let's see, I've got my pile of tiles somewhere. I really need to have that with me because there may be a couple of things. This is one of the ones where I could never remember the name, but here it is. Here's the tile. It's just a beautiful, complex green, and I'm really loving it. It isn't quite dark enough for me, though. I find when I'm writing the letters, I realize, wow, I'm kind of spoiled and used to a darker ink. But that's what a 2 mil sample is good for, so I'm not displeased about it or anything. And that came in an ink flight. Okay, so next up is what I was trying to, like, in my mind, like I was going to say Lamy Next when I was holding that pen. This is the Lamy Next with a broad Lamy nib on it. And it's got the Birmingham Boiler Steam ink. It's great on Tomoe River paper, but it's bleeding through Leuchtturm and some other things, which we'll look at. Okay, so then what happened? The Noodler's Matahari's Cordial, I wanted to try that out. So I've got it in the Lamy All-Star with a fine nib, and this is really pleasing. This is such a nice wet ink that I can use it for letter writing, even though it's a fine nib, and I'm just not a fine nib person, but it's, wow, it's nice. And yet the ink does not seem as aggressive as, it's definitely not as aggressive as the King Philip. I like it. It's a permanent ink, and it's really nice. Let's see. You can see from the tile that it's very permanent. You can kind of see where it, you know, the ink only moves slightly. Stayed very stable. You can definitely do your envelope with that if you want to. So then, of course, this pen came in, the new Lamy Safari Terra, and I put Robert Oster Burned Orange in it after a lot of, you know, back and forth. Of course, I couldn't get it with a broad nib, so I just switched and put a broad nib that I had, a black one, on it. I actually got it in an extra fine because I'd never tried a Lamy extra fine, and I still haven't tried a Lamy extra fine because I like my broad nibs. So, but I will one day just as a fun experiment. Okay, so then this is all me, you know, going crazy. This is a pen I received in December for a Christmas birthday gift. It's the Opus 88 Cholero in red, and I have done a weird thing to this pen because I was trying to order the broad nib unit, but they were out, or it was like a special order out of stock at Pen Chalet. But I ran into this video where a girl had made a comment that she used a TWSBI Mini nib unit on hers, and so that's what I did. I took my broad TWSBI Mini nib unit, and of course, you know, you just put it aside the little collar, and it just screws right in. And I haven't had any leaking or problems, and it's quite nice. It's actually quite nice. We're going to look at it. And I've got it here on the Leuchtturm, and I've got it on the Optic too, but I'm not sure whether I have it yet in the Tomoe River, but I've written several letters because I'm super interested in these pens. Now, when I first started with this, I had the medium nib that came on it, and I had a dry ink in it. But this Monteverde Canyon Rust is not dry. It's doing everything that I'd hoped for in this pen. And what I'm seeing now is, of course, you open the knob so that you can allow that ink flow to be good while you're writing. But after I get just the very initial, you know, startup, and it hasn't, it's like after a day or two, after a whole night, then you might want to do a little scribbling when you start, but it's really, really good. And I had gotten to that place too with the medium nib where I felt like, ooh, this is a neat writer, especially if you're writing for a long time. But I like the feel of these pens and the look of them. And there's a couple other finishes I'd really like to get. So that's where we're at. Now let's look at what happened on Leuchtturm paper. I only had 3 bleed throughs on this. The first one was the Birmingham Slag Gray in the medium nib, and that did spread just a little, and it did kind of seep through. That's not horrible, but I don't like it. I mean, I thought, no, then on the other side, you know. So the next one was the Levenger Amethyst did bleed through in that Lamy 1.1 in the 3008. Now, I'm not sure that it would do that if I put it into, you know, if it wasn't in the Wingsung. If that nib was in the pen it comes on, which is, it can go on any of these Safari or All-Star. So if that's an experiment I need to write down to try that too. But that did significant bleed through with a Levenger Amethyst. And this is a new ink to me, so I have no idea. Maybe that's common, and maybe I'm just, you know, attributing it to the flow in the Wingsung. I don't know. But the other bleed through problem I had was with the Lamy Next with the broad nib with Birmingham boiler steam, the new formula. That did significant. It did more than the Slag Gray. You know, you can see that, I hope. Let's see. That's where this new setup, it may not quite, you know, it's going to be harder. It's harder for me to see my camera to see whether you're getting focus. So I'm just kind of hoping for it. Okay, so now let's go over to Hamlin Optic paper. So we did really good, just 2 bleeders on this one. And it's, all of these seemed really smooth and nice. I love this paper. I'm almost done with this notebook, and I'm using it to write letters on. It's 90 GSM paper that's very much like Clairefontaine. It's very similar. It's the Hamlin Optic notebook. So it just, everything went really well. But the Wingsung 3008 with the Levenger, it did heavy seepage. Oh, I'm seeing a little seepage up here too, but not as much. Let's see, am I even showing you? So the Birmingham Slag Gray wanted to seep through on this, but I think on a letter I wouldn't even mind that much. That's not really bleed through. But the Levenger kind of was heavy, and so was boiler steam. That just, it's the combination. That's a nice wet, broad Lamy nib. And then there goes that dark, saturated, really flowy Birmingham ink. And probably you guys have had experience with that kind of thing too. Okay, that down here I only see on the Opus 88 with the Canyon Rust, just tiny little dots where it tried. But that's acceptable to me. I'll write a letter front and back even with that. But I wouldn't with these. I don't like that. Now, what happened with the Parker? Let's see. Well, there's a little heavy dotting with the Parker Quink and the pen BBS. That's a really wet writing nib feed pen, you know, the whole situation. It's really nice. I like it better on Tomoe River paper. So let's get into the Tomoe River paper. Let's see what I already have in there and see what else. We're not going to do the report card yet. This is just the little Lochby A5. So I was experimenting. This was my initial ink up with the Lamy Safari Terra. I just love that burned orange. In fact, now a bottle is burning a hole in my mind, but of course I've got so many samples. And I had purchased that sample. I think a pen friend, Casey, was going to send one, but I had gotten a sample from Vanessa right before. So I had, I believe I had let her know in time. And then so the Opus 88, I did try Ferris Wheel Press Autumn in Auburn. And it was too light for me. It was really good flowing, and I could tell we had operational status with that TWSBI Mini nib unit, but it was too light for me. So I went to the trouble of cleaning the pen out, and I said, I'm going to put Monteverde Canyon Rust. Not only is it a great matchup kind of for the pen, but it's there was no question in my mind that would not have issues with flow or being saturated enough. So I said, let's just do this. Let's get something in there that I'm sure of. So let's glance at the paper here. This will be where the report card goes, and it's very crowded because I don't normally have so many. You know, to have 10, let's see, 11, whatever. Oh my gosh, I'm missing somebody. So this has gotten crowded. I've outgrown my sheet, and that's why I usually like to keep it to 8, but I know realistically, I know myself. So let's just kind of carefully push the pens to the sides. Maybe try to keep them in order. I don't know. That's where this new setup is going to kind of throw me off. I'd like to at least write with each one, but it's going to be, maybe I won't write with all of them. Because like I already know that, I already kind of know how this is going. And let's see. We have looked at this one, the Lamy and in the Terra. We know how that is. It only seeped through where I painted it on. Okay, and I know that the Noodler's Mata Hari's Cordial is not going through my Tomoe River paper. I'm writing letters on 52 GSM. We have looked at this one too, and we don't have any bleed back through, and it looks really nice on the Tomoe River paper. I'm probably confusing my camera. So I think we'll put those 4 aside, and there is, this is a really lightly saturated, really, well, medium to light, the Sailor. It's beautiful, but we've seen it, no, we haven't. Okay, I need to just start. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start here because I don't want to waste any paper. Okay. See, I worry about running out of time with camera storage, but I think I solved that. So this is Lamy Vista with a Lamy broad nib. Nice and wet, with Sailor Mano, and you know, it goes on kind of darker and then it dries a little lighter. And I think that the people I wrote to will have, it's nice and wet, they'll have good readability, but I am a little bit concerned about, I just didn't like the read back. Okay, and then this is the TWSBI Eco, the new Smoke Rose Gold. Things are going really good with this, except that it's not going to go in the Leuchtturm without a little bit of trouble. And so I have to be a little bit selective. It could be that this medium nib is a real wet writer, but I don't think so. I think it's the Birmingham ink. I love the Birmingham ink for that reason, but it also ends up being that you have to watch your paper. Slag Gray New. That's important because it's their new formula. And it's right here. Has a little more green in it than the old formula. And that's just how they're making it now. So, okay. Wow. It's not that I'm all that disorganized. I'm actually I'm organized, but I don't want to run out of time for the blabbing at the end. So that's my problem. Okay. So here we go. This is just super, super nice. The platinum, it's like butter. 3776 Nice with a broad nib. Nice and wet. Diamine. Aqua Lagoon, one of my favorite inks. Super, oh, mercy. It's going to be hard to, if I even attempt to have this not inked up, because it's now like, I know it's already bumped something from my 5 top pens. I know it has. I just don't know what yet. But I know it's going to be there, so spoiler alert. Okay, so here is the Pen BBS 352 Galaxy. I really should be writing slower with that, but I guess I'm like in a hurry or something. With an Anderson nib. Okay, and then it is Parker Quink Blue Black. This has been very distinctive in letters. I mean, you would think, oh, blue black, just for whatever, you know, office, but no, it's really pretty. Has nice shading. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you that. I'm going to try. But it has nice shading. It really does. The ink really does kind of dry with still some different variation, which I like. And that's with a steel stub nib. Okay, so then we have the Lamy Nex. I don't think this went through. Yeah, I did. Okay, so it's probably going to bleed black onto there, but that's okay. We're going to try it anyway. The Lamy Nex, like I said, now if I had put a Lamy medium nib in this pen with this particular ink, I'd probably be a little bit more satisfied with the results. So that's why I'm doing this progress report, because, you know, it's like note to self and next time and all that. So Birmingham Boiler Steam, new. It's gorgeous, but it's a gusher with this broad nib. And knowing this pen like I do, in terms of the feed and everything, I do think it's the ink that And we probably will let that go through because it takes a little while for ink to soak through. You might say, oh good, it didn't bleed through. And then 10 minutes later, or maybe not even 10 minutes later, you'll find out you did have bleed through or seepage. Seepage, I think, is the, you know, we're not talking about it bleeding and going on to this page. We're talking about seeing what we see sometimes. Well, this is Leuchtturm. This is even technically seepage, not bleed through, but to me, I don't like it. It irritates me, so I don't want that. Okay, so Wingsung 3008. Super smooth with this ink. 1.1 Lamy nib. And Levenger Amethyst. It's super smooth and kind of, I forget how to hold the pen because I'm all like, it's just gliding around, which is great for me because that's what I like, but you might not if you don't like that much lack of feedback or whatever. Oh, and last but not least, the little Parker Vector, which was sent by a pen friend, and I just love this little pen. It's so little and you wouldn't think it'd be comfortable, but it is. Parker Vector. Medium nib. Oops. Okay, and it's a Parker cartridge. Okay, I think what the whole theme this month is just, you know, Chris gone wild in terms of inking up pens. So I try to avoid this, and yet it's just been fun. And when I think about the last ones that I decided to do, you know, kind of outside of, or, you know, in addition, yeah, it's been really fun to realize that I could actually put a TWSBI, let's see, where's my Canyon Rust? This is the Canyon Rust tile too. It's not a permanent ink, but to have that TWSBI nib unit on there till I could get my hands on an Opus broad nib, which what I need to do is just contact Pen Chalet and find out if special order not in stock means you have to wait in order to order it, or whether they'll take the order and then you can wait. You know, I just need to do that. I've been lazy. I could even call them or email them, but I haven't. I just put the TWSBI nib on here, which is working out. So that's really something. I had no idea. But it went right in, and I was concerned at first because it didn't quite, it looked a little bit different, but there's been no problem around the, you know, no leaking or anything. So apparently the girl that wrote the comment really knew what she was talking about. So I'm glad, because I hate messes and I don't want to stain this pen. But anyway, so as far as standouts, before we go to the other, oh my goodness, of course, this is just, there's something about orange, so these two are really standing out. And then as far as the writing experience, the Platinum 3776, you know, Nice, that it's just, oh, I don't have any regrets on spending extra, you know, lots of more money than I ever spend on the pen. And then this is gorgeous. I can't wait to try with the TWSBI Smoke Rose Gold a different gray to see how it compares. I know, I'm almost certain, I'm just certain that Faber-Castell Stone Gray won't bleed through with this pen. I'm counting on it because I really want that in my bullet journal. And, you know, it's not fair to these other pens. And this Noodler's Mata Hari's Cordial, I didn't think I was going to like the ink, but just as soon as I tried it, and well, I put it here, I had a misconception on it too, but it's gorgeous. And I should have known that because my pen friend has written with it before. The Parker Quink Blue Black is also gorgeous. It's prettier coming out of the nib than it is on the tile. I don't know if you can notice that, but it's nice and dark coming out of the nib, and it's pretty. Oh my goodness, this is just like my brain. My desk looks like my brain, basically. The Colorverse Laurel, I'd like to see that in a medium or broad nib, of course, but it's pretty in this, and it'll write on anything without bleeding through, so that's really fun. The Slag Gray seems to be quite wet, and these three seem to be quite wet inks, unless I'm wrong, unless I'm off my marker on that, which I could be. I could blame the nib on this one, because definitely or nib feed, not the nib. The nib I thought was dry, so that's why I think the ink is quite wet. So, okay, so before I have a brain explosion, let's just move over and I'll just talk on the other end, and hopefully this has been in focus. I'll find out later, but yeah, let's move over so I can talk face to face with you. There, okay, I haven't left myself much time to talk, and there's just so much excitement and everything, but this is the stand. You can't really see it too good behind me, although if I move a little you could see the pink and a little bit of the black. So I got it from Archon Mounts. I've wanted it for over 2 years now, so I think it's going to be really good, but I have to get used to it, and I'm going to have to screen the videos and make sure it's working okay. We did get our plumbing all fixed last week, so that's been exciting. I mean, and it wasn't anywhere near as expensive as I thought it was going to be. We had continued to fix as much as we could before they got here, and then they went back over to refix a place that needed to be, you know, really done better, that we and the neighbor had done. So anyway, we're you know, back in good shape there, and the weather's improving, and Coco's eye is better. So it's exciting to have all these fun pens to work with, and that the big excitement of this week was the Opus 88 putting that TWSBI broad nib unit in it, as I was just about dying to have a broad nib in one of those in that pen, and but I wanted to kind of see it first. And also when I went to try to order, like I said, I couldn't, it said out of stock, and it also said special order, so I just need to slow down, pick up the phone or whatever and call and ask them. But I don't know, I'm thinking there's no failures in these. The closest to difficulty was just wherever it does seep through in the 3 pens that it seeped through the Leuchtturm, and but it behaved the same on the other paper, almost the same. This is hardier. The Hamlin Optic is hardier, so where I saw more seep through on the Birmingham, it's apples and oranges. I don't like comparing apples and oranges really, but you know, you can see by looking at it that we did have a couple spots here too, mainly these two, the Birmingham Boiler Steam and the Levenger Amethyst. And that's, you know, I'm not familiar enough with either of those inks to know, is it strictly the ink or the nib choice too? So it's just fun. I'm writing letters, trying to catch up, and not really feeling too bad about that right now. Just going at it and enjoying the process. So I think I'll have to keep this short because I'm seeing the time left.
It's 11 a.m.
Okay, talking clock on aisle 1. I'm seeing that I may not have file space unless I delete something else. So I'll keep it at this, and I'll just say, what do you think? You know, what did you like the best about how things are going? I anticipate that the Platinum 3776 is going to get an A++, and I really, it shocked me that the Lamy All-Star Vibrant Pink with the fine nib, the Noodler's Matahari's Cordial, is super nice. It flows really well in the letters, and I don't seem to mind it in the fine nib, which has surprised me. I mean, I had a feeling since it was so permanent that I should use the fine nib, but now I'm wondering if I could have just used a medium number 6 nib in a different pen, or even a broad nib in the Lamy. But I have a feeling it might have gone through the paper that I like to use for, I'm using this the Hamlin Optic, and I'm also using Tomoe River paper. So I better close now, because I could go on forever literally about these combinations, especially since there's like 11 of them, and you know, I tried to keep it to 8, but I wasn't able to. So I hope you're having as much excitement in your pen world and writing world as I am, and I'll see you on the next video, and I'll see you in the comment section, where I really like to learn things and, you know, have these conversations with you. So bye for now.